Greetings and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, the Zany Mystic, also known as Lance White. Tonight's guest is Laurie Cornell. Laurie had several awakenings spanning her teens to her 30s when she became interested in crystals and native cultures. At 32, she made her first drum and attended a number of sweat lodges. During those years, she also became an accomplished tattoo artist. Soon after, she opened a healing center and studied Huna, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. During her travels in the U.S., she continued studying energy and Neuralink. The next 4 years were spent eagle dancing, tattooing, teaching, sharing, along with counseling, massage, and healing. She now hosts Community Sweats and has both businesses run from her home, where she can, as a single mom, homeschool her 9-year-old daughter, Raven. So let's welcome Laurie to the show now. Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Hi, Lance. I'm great. Thank you.
Good. I really like your website. I think it's quite beautiful, and I love the music on it. I think I told you that already.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's called A New Dawn, and it really means a lot. It's a beautiful piece.
I'm going to write that down because I want to check that out. And just so people can check out your website if they're listening, give us your website right away, will you?
It's www.forthehealthofitlive.org.
Yes. forthehealthofitlive.org. Wonderful. And I love the pictures of Raven, too. This is a really interesting story. I wanted to kind of touch on it. Apparently, you were carrying Raven when you went through all of your courses and while she was in the womb.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that everything that happens to the mother is translated into, it's all picked up. It's like a blank slate. Did you, by any chance, have any telepathic communications from her before or during your pregnancy?
Not that I remember. The only thing that I remember was getting kicked at the end going, "That's enough tattooing now, Mom." I was working up into the last week and a half of pregnancy.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we took Huna and timeline therapy and lots of Empowering Your Future courses, which does all the clearing, like of anger, sadness, fear, guilt, and hurt, and NLP. And what it does is just she gets all that, and it's so like getting a 2-for-1.
Wow, would you say that she's probably one of the crystal or rainbow kids that are coming in today?
I would say so. When she used to be in the daycare, some of the people in there, they'd go, "Oh, I got a headache," and she would go, "Oh, I'd fix that for you," and she would do her little thing, and they couldn't believe that it was actually gone.
Wow.
So whatever she got her Huna beads at 5 months in the womb and got initiated, and the teachers, I looked at them and they're like crying, and I'm like, "What's going on?" I asked her afterwards, and she goes, "That was as close to God as she's ever felt." The energy that was coming through into Raven was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I've got goosebumps. I have
pretty
goosebumps.
amazing. Yeah, she's been tree girl 3 years in a row at the Sundance, and this year I got to Sundance with her, so it was beautiful.
Wow. And I saw her on your site, you have a little drawing that she did, and it's just so adorable. Where she explains what's on it and what this is and what that is. She's a beautiful girl. Just absolutely, angelic.
Yeah. I'm pretty lucky.
How old is she today?
She's 9.
She's 9, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to be quite something when she gets a little... Well, she's something now.
Yeah. Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah. You mentioned having had several awakenings starting around your teenage years into your 30s. Would you like to share any of those experiences with us? No. Nobody's ever said no yet.
Yeah, well, I'll share them, but it kind of lets you know where I was at. I had a bit of a hard life. I left home when I was 11, and so I went through lots of transitions all over the place. And one time it was like, I was having a hard time on doing drugs and stuff, and it was like all these demonic stuff was coming at me, and I was like praying to Creator, to get me out of this situation, and I'll do anything you want, and I got out of it, and
wow.
It's like, okay, I went on that path, and I went down a few other things like that, and one time I was doing the same thing again. That was right before I made the first drum, and I was standing out in the snowbank going, you know what, Creator, I can't do this anymore. Like, please help me out. And one of the things that I got was I got this word, and it was purr. That's all I got of the word. And so what happened was I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend at the time, and he moved out of my tattoo shop. And then right after that, 6 months, that was 6 months it took me to do that. And right after that, the word came, and it was perseverance. And the vision that I got 6 months earlier, that vision that I had was of me being a medicine woman, and the purr word, and that was it. So for 6 months, I'm like, what's that word? And then it finally all came out, and it's like, okay, that's great.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, you're not the only one that had a hard time. I have a feeling that a lot of us that are now, I guess you could say we're we're on the cutting edge of the awakening process, because there's more and more of us. We're all in it, but many of us have been rebellious all our lives, and we never fit in anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't know if you felt that way.
True. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, I know I didn't, and then I had I had about 20 or 30 years of alcoholic and drug abuse and things like that. So I had quite a bit of that, and it's just a miracle that I pulled through it.
It's amazing, isn't it? Eh?
Yeah, it is. Well, I had somebody I had like an angel visit me through somebody else who was quite psychic, and he said, "I'm here to warn you." And he says, "I'm an angel, I'm here to warn you." And over about the next 10 minutes, he revealed as much as he could, but he said I was going to be arrested and go through 3 live-in programs, and then that was all he could say. And he said he was appearing and so that I wouldn't lose hope during the times ahead. And sure enough, within a few weeks, I was arrested twice, and it took 5 years for all that to play itself out. And I did go through 3 live-in programs, so it was quite interesting. It's amazing the experiences that we can have.
Yeah, well, that's when I started taking the Empowering Your Future and the HUNA and the NLP. I didn't want to go to any of the dry-out centers, and I didn't want anybody to know that I had that problem. So I took the counseling courses and became a counselor, but it was really I needed the counseling.
Well, I think a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists do go into it because they need the help too.
Yeah, I think we all need it.
We all do. A friend of mine today said, well, everybody's crazy,
Yeah.
And I'd have to say, if you look at the world today, it certainly would appear that way.
Yeah.
You have a lot of good links. You put a links, how am I going to say this? A link to links on your website.
A link to links, yeah.
Yeah. And most of those are ones that I really enjoy, too, and I have those on my blog, like, Matthew's Messages and some of the others,
Star Child.
Oh, yes, I love that. I've had her on the show, too. She's very nice.
Oh. Yeah, I see that on your list.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate to have just the most wonderful people on the show. And so given that we are kind of coming from a similar perspective, what is the most striking thing to you about the times we're living in right now?
I think it's just all the changes that are coming up that are here that are just so subtle, and some of the disappointments about, like the starships not showing up, and I heard some other stuff that. Yeah, I also heard on a couple of websites, who was that, Cryon, I read just a little while ago, that he said that it was an earth shift that actually happened, but because we were all looking forward to, and the energy was up of the, we all were thinking that it was going to be the starship, but so our energy was up, so that that big situation that could have caused a lot of death and destruction actually caused absolutely nothing. So it's interesting what actually happened that nothing happened. So kind of an interesting little piece there.
Yeah, it's a different way to look at things.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Speaking of ships and star nations and ETs and UFOs and stuff like that, it seems like all of my friends, I'm finding that they're starting to reveal information about, things that they're either afraid to talk about or that they just never tell anybody. And they all have seen or have had experiences with UFOs.
Yeah.
And they all have very similar kind of a view about things. They seem to attract other people who tell them their life stories and so on and so forth. Have you had any UFO experiences?
I have. I have one. I always used to see lights in the sky when I was a kid, and then that green twinkling weird thing falling out of the sky when I was 18, and then it took off up over the clouds. But the most recent one is after my first year Sundance. I'm like, because, when you talk about star nations and you talk about all this stuff, people tend to think you're a little bit crazy. And I know I'm not, right? But I'm sitting out on my patio, and I'm looking up at the stars, and I say, hey, guys, can you show yourself to me? And, they were moving around for me and that, right? And I put my neck down, and I'm like, okay, that's really nice, but I'd like something undeniable.
Right,
and then as soon as the undeniable was out of my mouth, I heard this woof. And up across I looked up, and above my house and above the treetops was this blue and white tracer of light that was about 15 feet wide and about 50 feet long. And I went, okay, I believe you now. I'll keep going. And so I keep telling the people, what I know, right? And I know that it's true. And, it's kind of easy to get lost on the Internet with some of the disinformation out there. And so I just really slimmed down to a lot of the things that what you said, like Matthew's messages and Star Child and Ashtar. And, there's a certain few that I stick with that I know that when I read them I feel good, like Mike Quincy and that, right?
Exactly. That's kind of the test for any of those messages for me is how do I feel after reading them? Do I feel uplifted? Do I feel less in fear? Do I feel inspired? And most of those that you mentioned leave me, feeling, better off than I was before I read them.
Yeah, and, there's a few that go. There's a few that go.
Go ahead.
What's that? Sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a few that when they say, they give a little warning that this is not whatever, this is like a little warning. So I automatically, I've read a few of those, and I just got down in the dumps, and then I went, you know what? As soon as I feel that way from reading something, or even the beginning of it, that's it. I'm not reading it anymore. So people really need to tune into that, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it seems like everything has a different vibration, and we just have to be more aware of what vibrations we're taking in, because they go in, and you have to process them then. And not everything is of a higher vibration, so I think that's just something that we... Don't you find that you just kind of figure that out faster and faster as time goes on?
Yeah, like 4 years ago to what it is today, it's like, okay, I'm not going to read that, right? There's just nothing, or, it's just the people that come and go and just everything. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It also seems to me that there really isn't all that much new under the sun. I mean, there really isn't. It seems like we're always poised or on the verge of some major breakthrough or some major shift, and I do feel some of these shifts pretty strongly, but I mean, it's like what you said about, show me the money, something undeniable. It's, I guess maybe the financial collapse is part of it, if you take that as part of the Mayan calendar energies, that would certainly fit in with that. And I think you follow that to some extent, don't you? The Mayan prophecies a little bit.
Yeah, because it's 2012. I was on a show called Perspective, and I have a little clip on YouTube under my name on there. I'm on it there again, and I'm talking about the Mayan calendar, and that should come out sometime in January. And
oh, good.
There was other people on there. I says, "Who's on here?" And he goes, "There was a lot of religious people, and what they were talking about was a lot of doomsday, Armageddon, Obama is the Antichrist and stuff." And for me, it's like I got the last 3 minutes of the show, but it's like a really good 3 minutes, because it's like I'm saying, well, everything is all there, like if you want the Antichrist, when was that? It was 2000, Y2K, and what happened in that year? Bush got elected.
Yeah.
And really, without Bush, where would we be, right? As he had to play the bad guy, right? So we would all wake up.
Exactly. And Shakespeare said it such a long time ago that this is a play, all the world's a stage, and we're just players on it. So I've begun to see, that everybody's playing their part, and but it does feel. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it does feel that the energies are shifting along with, as many people talk about, they're exponential as we get closer to 2012.
Mm-hmm. And this is supposed to be a year of 11, so it should be really interesting to see all these things that we've been promised, and everything is supposed to unfold in this year, and that's going to be really interesting. I just wanted to share a story, if that's okay, Lance.
Absolutely.
It was about us all being one and all part of one, and people can talk, and, you can hear that, and you can read bumper stickers, and I just wanted to share a shamanic journey that I had one time. And I had left my daughter at home with someone else, and as the journey started, it was like, I'm going down the rabbit hole, right? It's like kind of like, G-force and going through that. And what it started off was, where's my baby? Like I left my daughter at home, and where is she, right? And then when the chanting stopped, it's like they pulled this big dark blanket off me, and it's like, oh, we're all right here, Mom, and there's all my friends, and I'm like, well, how can you be here? You're here. How can you be here? You're way out in Saskatchewan. And it was just weird. And then he began to chant again, and off I'd go down the rabbit hole again, and that where's my baby turned into be, where's the love? Where is that love that is supposed to be all in humanity, and where is it? It's lost in that dark blanket. And then he stopped chanting again, and I'd rest. And then when he chanted again, it was like, okay, so I went a little bit farther back down the rabbit hole, and I thought, like, the whole thing about life is, to find the love and to find all of that, right? Well, it turned out in this journey, it was like the unconditional love was my baby, and we had found, I had to go back through this process and find that unconditional love. And in the last part of that journey, one of the shamans come over, and my womb was glowing gold and radiating all this gold light. And I went back to the time where I was the divine feminine, and that all of creation was my baby, and that baby that we were looking for is that unconditional love that is absolutely part of absolutely everything, and to have that kinesthetic feeling and the visualizations and just everything that it was one of the most amazing journeys that I ever had. And I wish I could share that energy with everybody, that would stop a lot of fighting and a lot of things that are not love,
Yes, yeah. I think that's a beautiful story, and I think you're absolutely right on the money. Everything that happens to me now, it all seems to come back to the unconditional love. And I just have to keep peeling away the layers until I get there, and then it's like, oh, I just needed to open my heart.
Yeah. That's a tough thing to do sometimes.
Yeah. And I sometimes I think that the feminine half, the women, have a closer connection because they're more closely in tune with the intuitive side, and plus the ability to directly connect to birth, that's a process that, even if we've incarnated as women before and we've had children, I mean, still, in this lifetime, I'm a man. I'm in a male body anyway. And fortunately, I've been able to develop or work on my feminine half to a great extent. So
That's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is. It's quite fun, too. And so I tend to see things from a more balanced perspective, and I can see that that's what's missing. It's the love, the unconditional love, and it just seems like we're going to have to reach a point where things get to where we just have to make that choice. Where that is the only choice. Do you want to continue on with this ridiculous warring and fighting and over provinces and property and possessions, or do you want to move on to a new future?
Yeah.
And, I do think that some people say that the Earth is evolving into the next dimension.
Yeah, that's ascending. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that in itself is pretty mind-boggling. If this is another one of those periods of time that recur throughout the billions and trillions of years of creation, then we're poised on the verge of being able to get out of our cocoons and fly like butterflies, or like angels, or like the divine, magnificent beings that we are.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I know.
Take a trip and leave the planet on our own accord, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's just amazing, all these gifts. Like, we can't even imagine what's in store, But just if you ponder that, and you ponder the unconditional love, and to know that we are just love and light, and that we can go anywhere and do anything, like so many people are caught in the 3D world of, fear and material and all of that, and just, it's, people just need to let that go,
Yeah. Well, I think that, don't you feel that a lot of that has been intentional conditioning from the people who pull the strings at the top?
Oh, for sure. It's interesting. Well, it's all a big play, right? It's how far into the darkness do you want to go, right?
Right.
Have you ever heard of Lloyd Pye's stuff? Where he talks about the Anunnaki and Sumeria?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, he's on the internet, and he talks about the Anunnaki and where we actually come from. That they come for the gold here, and it's an interesting, because scientists always says, okay, well, we come from the ape, right? We started walking upright, and so what his theory is we didn't come from apes, right? The Sumerians mined the gold like 400,000 years ago. They come here and they mined the gold in Sumeria, which is the southwest part of Iraq, I think is what it is. And then when the gold ran out there 150,000 years later, the next big deposit was South America. But they didn't want to go to the mines because they had to dig into the holes, and they were a very advanced race, and they didn't want to do that. So his theory is that what they did was they took the DNA from a man from them, and the Bigfoots that are around, and the Yetis and all of that, is what they did was they took the DNA from a female of that and spliced it together and basically cut and chopped and made this, and that's why we have so many autoimmune diseases, because our genetics are all messed up, but they didn't really take too fine a time at it, because they were just making a slave to dig the gold out. So it's kind of interesting, like, where is that all truth is going to be revealed? Like, where is our true origins, we don't even know.
Absolutely.
I look forward to hearing it all.
Me too. I mean, I would, because it's like a big blank spot, know, and I think some people might know what the truth is, but they're not telling.
Yeah.
They're not telling.
No.
There's a lot of.
But we're supposed to know.
Yeah. Well, I think that we will. I think that the vibrations seem to be moving in such a direction that it will be increasingly difficult for people to manipulate and lie and, do all the things that require a dark mindset. I think it's going to cause a lot of whistleblowers to step forth, and once that happens, there will be kind of an avalanche of information. because we know there's so much that's been concealed from us, even by our own government.
Oh, they're the worst because they're right on top.
Oh, they're at the top of the list, yeah. And, I mean, it's mind-boggling. One thing that's interesting, some friends of mine told me that they were watching one of the religious channels, and this is kind of mind-blowing. And it's just a typical religious channel, where they're, telling everybody to be saved and send your money in and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But on this show, they were they took 30 minutes, and it was almost as if they were giving a crash course in ETs. They said ETs and UFOs are real, and we got it wrong. And they showed some films of some old black and white film of Roswell and stuff, and it was like a crash course. Like they were told, you better get this information out right away. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty startling, And another one of the religious channels was talking about the pyramids and how they're communications devices used by the ETs, and that there was a gold cap on the pyramid. And of course, we know that Edgar Cayce prophesied that there would be an opening in one of the Sphinx's paws, and there are scrolls there that tell about who built them and our future and so on and so forth. So we could have a lot of exciting things come out if the people who are holding on to the reins so tightly would just
let them loose a little bit.
Yeah,
it's interesting. 10 years ago, my Reiki teacher, she had me tune into the Sphinx, and that was long before I actually knew that there was a room down underneath the Sphinx. And I tuned in that there's like a crystal room that holds all that information down there.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then when all that came out, it was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And there's some interesting movies out. The remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still kind of implies that, ETs are our creators and that they've been here, and that they are here. And there was an interesting show on the History Channel that showed how witnesses were talking about these UFOs going in and out of the water. And there's a strong belief by a huge portion of the UFO community, which I didn't know. I do this research on the Internet, but that they have bases under the water. And we're all looking up in the skies, at the Phoenix Lights and stuff like that, and it's like, well, wouldn't that make sense that they are submerged in underground bases? I mean, that would make a lot of sense that they were underwater.
Yeah.
So
my friend. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. Go on.
Oh, my friend, she lived down in Jericho Beach in Vancouver, and she lived in one of the high-rises there, and she'd always tell us about all the saucers that she would see come in. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, okay, but I never see nothing, right? She took a picture one time, and there's like 10 to 15 of them, and they come into the bay, and I'm sure they've got an underwater thing down there.
Yeah.
Because they're in the bay all the time. And I looked at that picture, and I went, that's amazing. Like, there's like 10 or 15 of them right in this one picture.
Yeah, I totally believe that stuff. And I think the more we open our minds and talk about this stuff openly, on radio stations and with our friends and so on and so forth, you find people that have been hiding these experiences since childhood because they're afraid to tell anybody.
Yeah.
But once you open the door and say, well, I heard blah, 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 or I had this experience, then they say, oh, well, gee, I had one too when I was about 7, and pretty soon then they get to validate that experience instead of just treating it like something that they can't talk about.
Yeah, when I was 5, I was in my bedroom and we were getting ready for something. Maybe I was 6, just going to school. And I looked out my bedroom window that I shared with my sister, and I saw this. It looked like an angry pig. And I'm like, ah! And I go running out, and I'm like, Mom, there's an angry pig outside my window. And of course, we go back, and it's gone, right? And I'm like, for years and years and years, I had no idea what that was. And one of my elders, I told him that story, and he goes, oh, he says, you seen the pig people? And I'm like, so that was real? Because it was just so ingrained in my head that it was really an interesting, it just stuck right there.
Wow.
But it was true.
Yeah, well, I believe you. I totally believe you. And, I think most people have had some kind of supernatural experiences. And now a lot of people are seeing and taking pictures of orbs. I mean, all of a sudden it's like everywhere you look, people are saying, oh, look at all these orb pictures.
Yeah.
And it's quite amazing, a lot of amazing
I've
stuff.
taken pictures of them.
Have you?
Yeah, I've taken pictures of them. I was up at my friend's place up in Savannah. They own the Vedette Lake Gold Mine Resort, and they have this place. It's separate from the resort, but it's a little place up on top, and I guess the monks were going to make they wanted to make a monastery in there, but they never did, and they call it the center of the universe, and there's a big article on it and that, and I was up there with her husband and our 2 kids, and I saw this osprey come out, and I had just a little, the cameras that you can buy that are disposables. I had that, and so I saw that osprey come out, and I'm like, oh, come here, just come a little closer overhead, because I didn't know what kind of picture that it would take. And so I go to stretch my neck, and I look again, and here's another one, and I'm like, hey, could you come up here? I want to get a picture of you guys together, right? And so they did. They come together right over top of my head, and I took a picture. And when I got it developed, there was this orb of light. It wasn't round. It was sort of oval but funny at one end, and like little light things coming out of it. It was like 5 times the size of the bird. It's actually on my website. You'll see it on there. I think it is. It was before I changed it.
Oh,
yeah, it was amazing. It was just like the birds listened to me and come together, and then there was that picture taken, and it was amazing.
Wow. Well, you're heavily involved with the shamanic experience and indigenous native spirituality and stuff like that, and I really feel an affinity for all of that, and that we can communicate with, everything is spirit, and you just have to treat it with respect and talk to it like it's, like you would talk to anything else, and it's amazing, we've probably lost so much of our ability to communicate with the world around us because we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
But I live in the country, so it's slowly coming back. But honestly, I don't know how people who live in cities and have to maintain 2 or 3 jobs. I don't know how they can do it. It's no wonder people have no time for, spirituality or connecting within or, discovering the magic of life. It's because it's been drained out. Somebody pulled the plug.
They keep them busy.
They keep them busy, exactly.
The powers that be keep them busy, saying you need to have this much money and you need to have this and this and this and this. Myself, I live in the city, but I live in a park, and I have another park right across the street. So I have actually 2.5 acres in the park, and so I'm really connected to nature. And I have coyotes and bears, and but still I'm in the city. But the bear that came here in the summertime, and it was across the street in the other park too, and then at a little ways, few miles away, I guess it went up the power lines, and some lady found it in her yard and phoned those guys, and it had been tagged twice. They took it 200 miles away, and it came back, and so they killed it. And it's like that thing was all over in my backyard. It was all over in the park. It never hurt nobody until this lady, disconnected from nature, decides that she's gonna dispose of it.
That's sad. That is really sad.
Yeah, I have the eagles. I have eagles around here too, and they sit in the tree across from me. Yeah, when I put a sweat lodge together, they come and they see and check it out. But in the last week or so, I've had Raven come in today when I was tattooing, and she says there's 3 eagles in one tree and another in another tree. And there was a little, we call it a Wombly Glushka. It was a young, immature eagle sitting in the tree, and it was really big. And I was on my way out to go. I have to back up out of my driveway and then drive out the gate. And as I was backed up, I was going to put it in drive, and I could hear like the eagle talking to me. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I look up, and then I look back, and there's this great big tree had broken off in the windstorm the night before and come down, and it was across the road just behind me and smashed my fence all to pieces. And if he hadn't have said something to make me look, I would have wandered away, and then my dogs could have gone out and stuff, right, because I have quite a few dogs. So it's like, okay, what's that eagle talking to me for, right? There's something he wants me to know, right?
Yeah.
So people need to really tune into that.
Absolutely. There. One time, not too long ago, there was a bird that was just making a big ruckus outside, and it sounded like it was really upset. I was getting the feelings from it. Because I'm empathic and I just feel these things. And so I went out and I said, "Well, what's the matter? What is it?" And it was just so upset. And so I looked down, and apparently a cat had killed a bird, and it was just laying there dead. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And so I picked it up gently, and I moved it to a spot where I could bury it and put a little, flower on the grave, and it was happy. It flew off, and all the birds were happy then.
Cool,
it's funny, those little things that you I don't know why I did that, but it just felt right,
Yeah. I took a course one time communicating with animals, and when I come home, I had this big golden lab Great Dane. She was such a sweetheart, and I'm sitting in my chair, and she's sitting beside me looking at me, and I says, "Hey, Kasha," I says, "if you can understand me, put your paw up on my knee." She lifts her paw and puts it on my knee. I'm like,
wow.
Are we people stupid or what?
Yeah.
They know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes I have a little Jack Russell Terrier, and sometimes I think she's smarter than I am. And so we think we're the top of the food chain, but we're really not. We're probably actually closer to the bottom if we wanted to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, and some closer to the bottom, because they just don't want to wake up, Yeah. It's nice when you start to wake up and you start to communicate with the animals and, with each other in a better way. Yeah,
and it's all about love. Again, it gets back to love. It's just having a love for all things, that are around you, whether they're animate or inanimate. Even little spiders, I find myself doing silly things like scooping them up and taking them outside, or picking them up with my fingers and just,
I don't do that. I'm a little freaked out of spiders, but I do the right thing, and I put them outside. My daughter makes sure I do too, and it's I still don't like to touch spiders, but I do the right thing.
Yeah, well, they're not real lovable. I mean, it's not like you can, they purr, or they don't sit up and they don't do tricks and things. But they're, sometimes I have a connection to them, a weird connection.
Yeah.
But I love the birds.
Yeah. When go ahead.
What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh,
yeah, I'm just
wonderful.
outside. I'm in Surrey. Yeah, we got quite a bit of snow, like 3 feet in the last little while.
Oh, I'll bet.
It's snowing heavy here. Where are you from?
I'm in Northern California in Gold Country.
Oh, nice.
In the Sierra Nevadas.
So you don't have any snow right now, eh?
Not right now. We had a little bit at Christmas time. And but last year it was quite heavy, and we had quite a bit of snow. But the weather seems to be doing stranger and stranger things every year. I can't figure it out.
I read Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to, throw the global warming word out there, because there's such a, big debate about it. Half the people say that there is global warming, and half say that there isn't. But clearly something is happening, and the energies are shifting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is, and some say it's because we're moving closer to the sun, and if we are to have this ascended planet that is supposed to be, like paradise all around, well, you can't have that really harsh climates and really harsh deserts, and everything has to be like paradise everywhere. So
absolutely.
You would figure that. In the native culture, it's like when the coyote made creation. The creator put him up in the mountain in a cave, and then iced over the cave, and told him that when your job's done until the ice melts off, and then you're going to have to come out and teach the people how to live again. And so all that ice is melting, and the people need to know how to live again, because they're so caught up in the material world. And I've in the last few years, since I've worked at home with my daughter, I've taken a huge cut in my money from my tattoo shop. And I try to stay out of the fear of it, but I really am in the thanks of it because, you know, I used to do all this and that and buy this and buy that, and, you know, it's really to slow down, and you don't need to have everything. You know, you don't need to have the latest and everything, and so I'm so grateful for that, to actually have learned that lesson.
Oh, me too. Absolutely right on the money. You know, I live on disability, so it's a limited income, and I've had to kind of train myself to live that way, and I have a theory that a lot of the people who are homeless, that, you know, that get ignored in society, that, you know, don't have enough to eat and so on and so forth, they're used to dumpster diving, and people like ourselves that are, you know, living on smaller incomes, we're actually going to end up better off as the economy tilts into depression and things get worse because we're already adjusted to it.
Yeah.
You know, when we know the value of friendships and love and relationships, and really that's, if you have those things and enough food to eat and a roof over your head, well, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, it is. Hey,
you know?
Do you know about Nacera?
I know a little bit about it. Do you want to talk about Nacera?
Well, I would like to express what I didn't know what it was before. I knew it was like total change of the government and the policies and reinstatement of the Constitution and, you know, all that money shared. Like I know Saint Germain has something to do with it. And I wasn't quite sure, okay, where's all this money coming from? What is this Nacera law and what's it really all about? And I found out that Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul actually wrote that piece of law.
You're kidding.
It blew my mind. I know. So when you've got names like that, you know it's real.
Oh, absolutely. Dennis Kucinich is terrific. I mean, of all the politicians, he and Ron Paul are probably the only ones, you know, that are telling it like it is, and that are not on the take.
Yeah.
You know,
what do you think about Obama?
I don't know. I think people have placed a lot of hope in him, and I certainly think he's going to be more hands-on than the other person who was up for election against him. But I honestly don't know. I mean, I read the information on the various things that say he's a star child, or he's born for this, and he was a great president in earlier times. But you know, I have kind of a wait and see attitude. I think everything is happening just as it's supposed to happen. To create the conditions for the greatest number of people awakening as possible. Whatever that includes.
And I have no idea. I'm just kind of riding it out because before, you know, Dennis Kucinich stepped out, that's who I was really hoping for, because I have a piece of his speech on my website in messages. And, you know, listening to that guy's speech or reading his speech is just what a enlightened being he is.
Yes,
you know, he would have made a great president.
Oh, I know. And he totally believes in, you know, he talks openly about ETs and UFOs, and, you know, we know that the government is deeply immersed in all that stuff. I mean, there's no question about it. So, but oddly enough, the corporations don't brief the presidents because they don't have a need to know. So, you know.
Who runs the place anyways?
Well, people who hopefully aren't going to be around when the ascension occurs. I don't think they're going to be able to make the cut. I don't know.
It's going to be an interesting year. Yeah, greed. It's a funny thing, eh?
Yeah, and all that just to control everything and control everybody, and it just seems so foolish. You know, it just seems silly.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems like
it
a
is.
silly thing. Yeah.
It's kind of it's such a waste, right?
Yeah,
but if you look at the whole game and what everybody's learning from, you know, going down into that path of greed and darkness and coming out, it's like it's a huge school. But when you get on the other side, it's like, oh my God, what a waste, you know? So many people are hurting.
Yes, and you know, many of the people that I've had on my show have had near-death experiences, and they talk about when we cross over that there's a life review. So most of us live as if we're throwing bones over our shoulder, and there are no consequences, and whatever we think, feel, do, is just private, and never goes anywhere. It's all recorded in stereo, and we have to relive it, when we cross over, so we can see if, we can see we're actually doing a review to see if we met our goals. It has nothing to do with judgment. It's a review to see if what we set up, how close we came to it, and to have realizations about where we might like to move next. Yeah. But they also say that if you kill somebody or you instigate a war on purpose, that you experience the feelings of that person that you killed and all of the impacts that it had as an offshoot of your actions. So you have to relive that, so that you understand the full impact of your actions. And I can't imagine that would be an easy thing for some people.
No, for sure.
I'd much rather live a life of love and light and, compassion and, going in a direction of selflessness and service to others, and non-materialism, because it just seems like it's so much more rewarding in the short and the long run, magic starts happening. Don't you find that?
Yeah, it has, to be in a place of service is like, it is magic, and just to pray for what it is that you want, I prayed to be a voice for the people because that's what I did at Sundance. Every year I go there and I'm an eagle dancer, so I get pierced on the tree the first day, second round, and so I'm praying that way. We get pierced through the shoulders, and then a rope goes out like it's a harness, connects the two, and then a rope out to the tree. It's actually not a big deal because I'm praying and I don't even feel it. And it's just amazing that there's nothing there, right? And so I go and I dance out at the end of that rope for 4 days, and it's to pray to be in service. And after I finish my 4th year Eagle Dance now, it's like I want to be a voice for the people to wake up and what can I do? And then I went to in September I went to a shamanic workshop, and I helped do the fire for him, keep the fire for the sweat lodge. And when I got back from that, Raven comes out with the phone and she goes, "It's Randall Mark from Perspectives, and he wants you on TV." I'm like, "What? Who's that?" And I'm trying to talk to him, and nothing's really registering because I'm going, "Randall Mark, I know that name, right?" And I had to let's slow down. Here's the number. Here's the name. And I hung up and I went, "Randall Mark, that's that guy from The Standard, and it's a show up here, and it's like a social thing. It's kind of like a part religious in that. But at the end, they always had this interview with In People. It was like a cut off another show, and I'm like, I got to get on that show and tell my perspective, because religion doesn't take into view the light workers or any of that kind of stuff. It's sort of, that's not even mentioned anywhere. And so I kind of never watched that show anymore. And then when this Randall Mark comes from Perspectives, I kind of had to laugh because I always wanted to tell my perspective, and there he is phoning me to tell me that he wants me to be on his show. Wow. And my side of, like spirituality and tattooing. So it was kind of neat. And then he phoned me back and got on for the Mayan calendar and the end times. And then I got the interview with you, and I'm going to be on another radio show in February, Co-op Radio up here. And so all that praying and all that wanting to be of service, it's like all these things are just coming into play, and it's beautiful.
That's awesome.
I feel, I just feel like it's time.
And I have no idea how, sometimes I will pursue guests because I just have a feeling that they're going to be interesting. Sometimes people recommend them, but it's almost as if they just kind of are delivered.
Yeah.
It's like Spirit shows me, okay, this is the next person you're going to have on the radio show, and I just, I've just gotten used to the idea that, so the right person will show up and they'll be perfect,
That's cool, isn't it?
It is, it really is. Now, do you talk to the shamans, some of the Native American shamans, or?
Yeah, my Sundance chief and that, And there's, other ceremonies.
Do they talk much at all about the changes that are coming?
Well, I didn't talk to Kevin a lot, my Sundance chief, because, again, there's that Star Nation stuff, and I don't know what he knows. But when I did talk to him, he actually knows quite a bit. I don't know what he knows about the shift, but, my other friend Daryl, too, he doesn't know anything about the Star Nations or anything that I know about, but he can feel the shift in the earth and the animals and all of that, and he's right in tune with that. And he says, I can't understand when I send him the emails that I know, and he goes, I don't understand that, but he says, I know when I tune into nature that shift is coming. So he totally feels it, even though he knows nothing about none of the rest.
Yeah.
So it's there if they want to tune into it,
Yeah.
But the truth is out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that as the energies ramp up more, because I've noticed that 2008 they started getting more intense, and I think 2009 will be even more so. That people who are not in tune are going to feel increasingly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They're not going to know why, perhaps, but it's going to be like there's something wrong and they can't put their finger on it. And part of that is just that we've been living in a dream world, an illusion. And
sometimes a nightmare.
Totally programmed like, cattle going to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to acknowledge. Or also that, for instance, with some aspects of Christianity and other religions, that much of it is a lie. Who wants to admit that your whole life has been based on a lie?
I know,
and
it's
hating
interesting.
this group or hating that group or this skin color is not right. It's not godly.
No.
That didn't come from God. So
that come from the powers that be that want to make differences so that people have something to fight about. I'm totally not prejudiced. And when people start talking about prejudice, I don't get into it. I just say, you know what, I'm not prejudiced, right? I don't have a problem with those people or none of it, right? Because I just project what I want back. I see in the world is what you think it is. And so, I see all the good. And when people aren't doing so well, when they got their issues and that, it's like they're doing the best they can with the resources they have available.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that in these times coming up that, if we stay focused and grounded, right, people are going to come to us to understand what's going on. Did you feel the energies of the last month? Yeah, last month, how hyped up they were, and then they just kind of flattened out real quick, eh? As soon as January started, because I was just like, almost vibrating, and I'm like, oh my God, if I'm this crazy, I can imagine what other people must be feeling. And then it was like January started, and it's just like everything went.
Yeah, kind of like a balloon letting its air out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I felt that way too, and I felt them very strongly about the last month. But it seems like they spiral around, and I'm starting to get used to that kind of cyclical nature. Although I haven't figured out or been able to put my finger on what exactly is triggering it. But I do notice that other people share the same experience for the most part, and they notice when the energies are ramping up, and I get really I want to start writing my blog, and I feel creative, and I'm tapped in. It's like, oh, this is this, and then everything is like magical on the internet, and it's like a Ouija board, except a good one. Not bring up evil things, but and it's a lot of fun.
Do you tune into the moons and the solstices and like the 11/11 and 12/12?
Yeah,
because that's when the energies will really ramp up. Is those special dates, eh?
Yeah,
like you watching the moons and watch how crazy it gets, right? And then as soon as the moon goes by, it's like, okay, it levels out again.
And there are going to be some major astrological things coming up in the very near future. I think there's a Grand Cross. I've been recently having quite a few astrologers on the show, and a couple of them are talking about these very unusual alignments of planets which are approaching. I don't remember when. I'm sorry, I can't remember the dates, but they're definitely within the next few months. There's going to be a Grand Cross, and of course, there are other alignments that are occurring at 2012 as well. So there's a lot that's coming up.
There's triangulations too. The first one is January 11th, and then February 15th, March 15th, April 14th, and June 11th are the next ones, and it's like big energy portals right then too. I don't know if those kind of cross-reference with what your astrologers were talking about.
Yeah.
But I know lots of big openings coming in the next year. It's just going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We don't have a heck of a lot of time left, so I'm just going to let you. Is there anything that you'd like to share, from yourself, as part of your, goal to help awaken other people? Is there anything you'd like to share with the listeners? I just would love if everybody, put their differences aside and just looked into their hearts and, have compassion for other people, even when they're talking negative, to try to turn that conversation around and just to find the love and the light in absolutely everything that they do, and the darkness that's out there, the chaos that's happening. You can focus on that, or you can choose to focus on the joy and the love and the light that's in your life. And the more you focus on that, the more you'll get of it. And just all that chaos is just the darkness trying to stir you up. And so just to let that all go and just focus on that love and light and see the divine in everything, every human being, every animal, every piece of nature, go out into nature and go breathe with the tree, go talk to nature. Yeah.
That's all I can share about all of that.
That's beautiful. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for being on the show. You were so much fun, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And before we go, will you mention your website one more time so people can go there and check out the interesting stuff that the links and the stories and things?
Okay, great, Lance. Thank you very much for having me on the show, too. And the website's also going to be updated in the near future, too. And it's www.forthehealthofitlive.org. Thanks, Lance.
And it's a beautiful site, and it's well worth the visit. So I encourage everybody to go check it out. You've done a terrific job on it. And I wish you the best and lots of love and light.
Yes, same to you, Lance. Have a happy 2009. Okay,
yes,
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.